Good evening,
We're
good
doing
evening.
great.
Good evening,
We're
good
doing
evening.
great.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, May 26th, 6 p.m. I will do the roll call for the Selectmen. Alan,
Aye, here.
Pat,
Here.
Mike,
Here.
Ed,
Here.
and Sheila's here. Good evening. This is a virtual Board of Selectmen's meeting. If you wish to make a public comment, and speak on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature on your device. The moderator will be notified and will unmute you. Please identify yourself before making comment. Dave, do you have a number of people who are out there? 6 attendees. Thank you. Item 2, approve the May 12th, 2022 Selectmen meeting minutes.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All right, taking the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Motion moves forward. Public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is not on the agenda.
I do.
Okay, Mike.
The last couple of meetings, we've had a discussion about enforcing the land use of the parking ordinance relative to landscapers and construction people parking where they shouldn't be parking. And so I have spent the last 2 weeks driving around our fair town, and I have taken a look at different things, and I find out that what we have is, for the most part, I found that landscapers, for the most part, with a few exceptions, were parking in places that parking was allowed. However, what I did find out was that they were parking on parking spaces with their size of their machines or their equipment, that trailers and so forth, and trucks that would be outside of the parking lots, the parking spaces. I found too many that were parked on not crosswalks, but sidewalks. One of them, two of them actually, were parked on sidewalks that would have prevented our consolidated school students from using the sidewalk to walk home, as some of them do, or to the library. I found some of these that were parked in the wrong direction and coming at cars on hills where you'd had limited visibility. And I found any number of things like that created a number of safety problems for not just people like ordinary citizens driving, but for school buses and for students, little kids and so forth. So I met this morning with Lori and Chief Sanford, and the discussion for the last 2 meetings has been to reinforce the parking ordinances that are already in existence in town. So at our meeting this morning, I made a recommendation for consideration by the Board of Selectmen and to the police chief and to Lori. And that was to, we all realize there's a safety issue. And what's the issue also is that there has been a tremendous, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, proliferation of landscapers and people cutting lawns, mowing lawns, trimming and so forth, and a lot of construction vehicles. So we want to make the landscapers and construction vehicles aware of the parking ordinance that is fairly strict, that they will have to be parking in either their clients' driveways or in places where they're not obstructing traffic. They can't be out into the traffic lane where people are traveling. Cars, I took a lot of pictures, and I showed those pictures, some of those pictures this morning, to the chief and to Lori. And it really is not just a danger, but a pretty severe nuisance. So what I recommended was that we issue we post in a public area and send to as many landscapers as we can and talk to them that we'll post a notice that says that in 30 days, you've got 30 days to find a way to park in your customer's yard, lot, whatever, driveway, and park legally where you are not crossing those. I'm talking about parking. I'm talking about sidewalks where we have the painted lines, where we have bike paths and where people walk, and on the sidewalk down near Consolidated School, everywhere, that will no longer be tolerated. And so we would give them 30 days to comply, and we're willing to discuss and talk to them and so forth, but that's what they're going to have to do. And that after 30 days, we would begin a process where we would, warnings would be issued, and second infraction, then the fines will start. And the fines are, and the emphasis I want to make is, this is, as has been discussed in the past, an ordinance that is already on the books and approved by the citizens of the town that we are going to have to enforce. And so that is the recommendation for consideration to the Board of Selectmen when we get to that issue. And so I can only say that Lori, the town manager, and Chief Sanford both comply. I mean, agree. So Lori, if I've left something out, would you step in, please?
Or no, I think that you have covered it. I think the focus was to make sure that we give people plenty of notice, communicate it as broadly as we can.
Right. Exactly.
And then, of course, the chief has discretion in all enforcement purposes, if there are extenuating circumstances. But for the most part, Chief Sanford, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Good evening, everybody. Everything that was said is accurate, and every situation is different, so we'll look at it. But I think this is reasonable, and I think we can go forward and take appropriate action as necessary, giving people time to alter their situation.
We're gonna have a public meeting on this at all to see if we can go ahead and get the word out? Or is this something that we're just gonna go ahead and do?
Well, if the board is in agreement, with this direction, then we would just, it's already an ordinance that's on the books. We would just, the chief and I just want to make sure we're on the same page as the board.
I would like to hear from some of the landscapers.
I did. I've talked to them. I've talked to a couple already.
But I'd like to have some of them come in front of the board and explain their situation, why this happens, the length of time that they're at a location, how difficult this is going to be for, I say, the people at Goose Rock's Beach, because I think, the more restrictions that we put on, the less people are going to want to cooperate and go out there.
You understand, Sheila, that these are restrictions that are already ordinances. These are nothing that we're adding, nothing.
Oh, I understand that. But I don't look at the landscaping business industry as somebody visiting the town and parking illegally and then leaving their vehicle there for 3 or 4 hours. To me, that's a different thing altogether. And so I would like to hear from some landscapers to come in and basically plead their case.
Well, I can tell you that I did time 3 this week. I put about 100 miles on to this week, last week and this week. And there were several, well, I would say several, the numbers that I looked at, I just made the rounds, and there were a number that were there for 2 hours or more. So I think that we're not down to an hour thing anymore. I think we're down to something longer. And so I think that You know, this is where I think that we have an ordinance, we have a safety issue, and we have a real safety issue. I think we need to move on it.
So
Mike, I'd like to say, sorry, Alan, go ahead.
I would like to, I'm not against this, by the way, but I would like to be able to try to help these lawn companies to go, and the construction companies to go ahead. Well, there are places in town that they have no parking, even in the owner's driveways. So hopefully somebody could direct them someplace else. They could drop their equipment off and maybe be able to park their one truck in their driveway without everything else attached to it. They could take it somewhere else, and when they were done with it, coming back and pick it up. Because there's quite a few houses that they don't even have any parking hardly. To
Alan,
get that big truck in.
Yeah,
So
Alan,
got,
I thought of the same thing. I understand what you're saying, but what you got here is that now you've got a parking ordinance. You're asking the police to enforce, and now you're going to make individual exceptions. It's very difficult. I don't know how that would happen.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if they need additional parking, right, for their equipment, they could drop off the equipment they're using, take the trailer. The trailer is it's 20 feet long, some of these things are. To take it someplace else, like the ballpark or someplace like that, drop it off and then go back and get it so it wouldn't be on the road. I mean, I think that, that would be a good gesture. Other than that, I don't know what these people are going to do that have their places, taken care of by a lawn care, or they need a contractor or whatever else, if there's no room in their yard to be able to park a 20-foot trailer. I'm quite sure most people have enough places to park a truck or something like that. I'm just saying, there must be, you just can't tell somebody, well, you can't do it. You can't have somebody fix my house because I have no place to park the truck.
Then you've got to change the ordinance.
No, I don't want to change the ordinance. I'm just saying that I think that we should be able to help them, tell them to take their extra equipment and go park it somewhere else where there is plenty of room to park. I didn't say change the ordinance. I'm fine with the way it is.
Or maybe we ask them not to bring those large trailers. Many of them have, a smaller trailer that you can just put the lawnmower on, and it's a much smaller space area for them to use. I just think, again, these are companies who are running businesses in our town that our residents use. And if we ask them to eliminate or you can't bring your equipment on, what is the business going to do? And then what are the people going to do if the businesses refuse to come?
Well, Mike, I'd like to say thank you.
Okay,
I'm in favor of this. I'm okay with the ordinance. I just would like to, if a police officer says, well, you can't park this here because there's not enough room, or you have to take it someplace else, just suggest to them, well, there's the ball field that you could drop it off temporarily or something like that. I'm just saying that somebody should say, well, you might be able to go over here to drop that off and come back with your vehicle and park it in the yard.
But think of the practicality of it, Alan. I'm just asking you to think of the practicality. One trailer that we saw was 24 feet. And
it's
so
big.
now but the practicality is now, are we going to have our 12-person or 13-person police department go around on a daily basis and check on the landscapers to make sure they're complying with everything? I just don't know that is practical. They got to go around and tell, it's going to be a hit or miss thing. So it's just not, to me, we talked about it a little bit, but it's not practical.
Okay.
Well, I can say, I live on a fairly narrow road. we have landscapers who come and park. When you see that, you go around them. If somebody is coming,
You
great,
don't have a
go
choice.
around.
You don't have a choice.
Sheila, you live on a dead end road too.
It's the road is still mobile. You're still able to move and get around. When I turn onto Wilds District Road, I think it's Piscataqua landscapers. They're there like once a week. When you see them, you simply look to see if there's a car coming. Then you go around them, or the other car comes around and you wait. I just think it would be a very much of a hardship on these businesses and the people who require them to come and do business.
Then you got to change the ordinance. You got to change the ordinance, Sheila. That's the only thing you can do.
Well, I look at them as being temporary.
For 2+ hours is not temporary.
Well,
and I agree.
Maybe they move from one yard to another. I don't know.
You know, yesterday, let me give you a for instance. Yesterday, I was out on Dyke Road, and there was a construction vehicle, not like a landscaper, pulling a truck, a trailer, and it was parked on Dyke Road. And so I was going up Dyke Road, and and it's a little bit of a curve there where it was. And guess what? This car came out from behind the thing. I showed it to the chief and to Lori this morning. I took the picture from my car while I was trying to pull over, while this other car was coming by. Didn't even look at me, he just came. And this was heading towards the beach. This car was heading towards the beach, and the trailer was parked there heading towards the beach, attached to this truck. And this SUV came out, wasn't going the speed limit, I don't think, but I don't know. But I had to pull over, and I took the picture as best I could from my car. I showed it to the chief and to Lori this morning. That's a good example of why do we not want to go around. And then yesterday on Wilds District Road, it's at the bottom of a hill on a curve, there was a company, I've got the name, I won't say it on TV, that was parked going in the wrong direction with a big trailer and its truck, and it was cars coming up the hill and cars coming around the hill and down the hill, and that wasn't safe either. So I don't agree with what you're saying. You go around. Sometimes you can't.
I think 98% of the time you can.
I can't argue with you. I don't know. I don't know the percentages. I'm just saying that we got a problem.
I say that you have 2 lanes of a street for a reason, so 2 cars can pass going in the opposite direction. And if you have an impediment, then that's certainly a safety issue.
I feel like
I'm with Mike. Sheila, you aren't going to convince me.
that.
I know, and we've had this, and this has been brought to us by multiple people in town, because I know it's going to be an inconvenience to the landscapers, but it's an inconvenience to everybody who drives on the road, and there are more of them than there are landscapers. And the reason that we have these ordinances are for public safety. That's all I'm saying. I mean, we can argue this around all night, and I'd be happy to, but I'd like to eat dinner sometime tonight too. Mike, thank you very much for doing this. And I want to go on air and apologize. At the last meeting, you and I kind of bumped heads a bit, and I
didn't bump heads. You bumped heads.
Okay, well, we had a little head bump. We're both a little headstrong, and I admit that.
I'm not headstrong. I'm reasonable.
Okay, well, we're both reasonable, but okay. I want to thank you for doing this, and it sounds like you see it very similar in the same way that I do. So
it's not a good situation for either of us, either for the people who go to enforce it or the people who are trying to do their business. So it's not a good situation. But there will be some middle ground, I'm sure, somewhere.
So Sheila,
I think we can work this out.
David James has his hand up in the audience.
Okay.
We go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you, Dave.
This is a difficult situation, no question about it. But I think you're underestimating the ability of the contractors and the landscapers to adapt to this.
Exactly.
The ordinance exists. We've not enforced it, and so they've gotten away with it, and so they do what they want to do. But I think if you enforce it, they will figure out ways to accomplish it without abusing what the ordinance says. I think Mike's got a good point there.
I agree with that point of view as well.
I would still like to hear from a few of our landscaping businesses to see what they have to say. We're getting one side of the story. We're getting the complainers. There's a whole bunch of people out there who haven't even made a comment on the issue. I would like to hear from the landscapers to get their viewpoint.
Why?
Then why aren't they here?
Because I think we need to support our businesses in the town. I think that there are many people who don't see this as an issue, who hire landscapers to mow their lawns, who come to their house once a week. And many of them stay for like 15 minutes and then they're gone.
You got to change the ordinance then.
So I think everybody has discussed the points that they have. So I guess the question is, what direction do you have for staff at this point?
I'd like to see us I would like to put a public notice out and let people know. And I agree with what Dave James says. And we had that discussion today. We think that the landscapers will comply and they will find ways to do it. I think that's what'll happen. So, and I have talked to landscapers. So, anyway, that's what I feel. I think we should proceed with the notice and public notice and notify as many people as we can and start that discussion. And then, like we say, after 30 days or whatever it is, we start giving warnings, and after 60 days, whatever it is, after the second warning, they start to incur the fines.
So it sounds to me as staff that we don't have consensus on next steps. So I'd be looking for some kind of a vote in order for me to take action.
Well, I make a motion that we proceed as I've discussed.
I second that motion.
I'll take a roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
No, I can't do it.
all right, Ed,
Aye.
and I disagree. So it's 3-2. So Lori, I guess the majority wins.
Okay.
That's what democracy's all about.
You betcha.
Right.
In some places.
So Tracy O'Rourke also just wanted to update people about elections under public forum.
Okay. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to remind people that absentee ballots are now available for the June 14th state primary, municipal election, and the RSU 21 budget vote. So you can come into the town clerk's office or give me a call at 967-1610 to request a ballot, and I will mail it to you if you call in. And the last day to request ballots will be Thursday, June 9th, which is 2 weeks from today. And that is by state law. And tomorrow there's a deadline. If you are in the Republican, Democrat, or Green Party and want to switch into a different party, by state law, tomorrow is the last day that you can do that for this primary. And you'll only get ballots for the state primary if you are enrolled in the Democrat or Republican Party. The Green Party does not have a ballot. And if you have any questions, there are updates on the town clerk website as well as under news and announcements on the homepage of our website. It gives all of these dates. It gives you sample ballots, the proposed ordinance changes, the town warrant. Anything you need to know about the election is on the website. Or again, you can give me a call, 967-1610. And thank you.
Thank you,
Very
Tracy.
good. Thank you, Tracy.
Sheila, we also have someone in the audience. Tara Rubin has her hand up.
Okay.
Hi, this is Tara. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. I just, some of you may know, we just received word recently that the short-term rental applications for the 15 Langsford Road property were ultimately denied at this time. And regardless of that outcome, I just wanted to say publicly, thank you. I assume this probably wraps up the work of reviewing all of the applications that have come in over the course of the last 6 months. And I wanted to say thank you to everybody at the code office, to Werner, to Eli, Andrew, Greg, to April Fortier, and thank you to Lori Smith. We, the Langsford Road community, we are aware of the number of hours and iterations that went into this process, and we really appreciate the team, regardless of outcome. That was one thing I wanted to say. And then the second piece is I really want to express, my support for and interest in the continued work of refining our approach to governing short-term rentals in our community. I think this is it's a big, complicated issue that's playing out in towns across the United States and around the world. It's a market that has changed, and it's changing our communities. So, this ordinance is not perfect. None of our laws are or ever will be. We see that played out all over the place. So that having been said, we will work. The select board is already, working to continue to refine and monitor the performance of the ordinance, and that is really important. And I remain, concerned about some of the kind of loopholes or gaps that may exist in the current ordinance, and just support the ongoing monitoring of the short-term rental situation. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Tara, for chiming in. Do we have anyone else?
No.
Okay, I'll move on to item 4. Public hearing to consider applications for Viddler's licenses for the period June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2023. And I will make the announcement that I cannot vote because my property is part of what's on this list.
And I can't vote because my property's on this list also.
So we have to recuse ourselves, but we
You need to read the list, Sheila.
Laura, do I have to read everyone?
You don't have to. I mean, we have the list on the
There's
website.
quite a few here. So I move that we accept this list as written.
Well, first we have to open a public hearing.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And
I
have
will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone out there who would like to make a comment? No hands raised. Then I will close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I will take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and Ed.
Aye.
Motion is accepted. Very good. Public hearing on a proposed amendment to Chapter 160- Parking Control Regulations, Langsford Road. I believe last week we talked about this. Lori, do you want to add to this?
Sure. So this is based on our last meeting request to have a public hearing to change the parking ordinance which is under Chapter 160-11, the parking control regulations, and in particular Langsford Road. Currently, the language says no parking easterly side of the road from the intersection with Pier Road to the Captain's Restaurant property, so-called. This amendment would be to change it to no parking easterly side of the road from the intersection with Pier Road to the intersection of Ward Road, Monday through Friday.
For me, I think the issue was the buses, because I know there are a number of children who line up down that way. And for them not to be able to have a bus pick them up, which is a real change in the whole neighborhood. To me, that was the issue. So Monday through Friday is fine with me.
It's fine with me.
Fine with me.
So again, it's a public hearing, so we need to open the public hearing.
Oh, I will open up the public hearing and ask for comment.
We have a hand up.
Oh, good.
Hi.
Hi, Tara.
I'm here. Just wanted to, this is Tara Rubin. We live at 10 Langsford Road, and we have 2 kids in Consolidated that do get on the bus along with others from down the street. And just wanted to really, again, express our support for this, which would allow them to continue getting on the bus on the street versus out on Route 9. And thank you to Rick Spencer for his leadership in, getting this across your desks and into this forum. So we would be really appreciative, obviously, to have the buses continue to come down here. Does this solve, it's not a one-stop solution for every possible safety and parking hassle that, may concern us on Langsford Road, but this is a great step forward and one we really appreciate your support for.
Do we
Make a
have any-
motion? Nope. Anybody else?
I was going to say,
We got to close the
do we have any other?
hearing first.
We see no one else. No, no more comment. I will close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
Move.
Second.
All right, I will take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Motion passes. Very good. Item 6, adoption of government wharf budget. We have,
So in your packet, you have the government wharf budget. Denise Brown would normally review this with you, but she's having internet problems. So the government wharf budget is one of our enterprise funds, and the proposal is that the budget would be paid for by user fees as well as use of the fund balance that's in that fund by $4,000. There is electricity costs that have increased. We're also looking at security cameras for the site. And we have a float that we need replaced to the tune of about $5,000. And we're looking to build up the fund balance there for potential of a condenser replacement. So in order to accomplish this, the fees for the lobstermen would be set at $600 and the commercial dues would be $275. The entire budget, $16,850.
okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I will take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. Motion passes. Next, adoption of Dock Square budget.
So the Dock Square budget is the last enterprise fund. And it includes the operations of Dock Square as well as maintenance and capital items related to the downtown and tourism areas. The total budget is right now, including a transfer to the general fund, is $419,842. The one change in this budget is the increase for salaries and wages for the parking lot attendants that are in Cape Porpoise Pier area for the tourists in that area. And otherwise, the budget is very similar to previous years.
I'll make a motion to approve
Wait a
the Dock
minute.
Square budget.
I have one question.
Sure.
Where, go down to utilities and phone and internet, where it says there's an increase of 88%. What is that about?
So we have phone and internet for the pay machines in the parking lot. So both at the exit as well as the one under the restroom. And so with our new consolidated communications upgrade in fiber, and it also is for the camera. So the cameras stream up to the dispatch center at the police department.
Okay.
So there's an upgrade in the bandwidth there for both of those services.
Okay, well, that makes sense. All right. Now I'll hear a motion.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Very- And I will take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. So motion passes. And this is number 8. We will hear from the Climate Action Plan Task Force.
Yes, so we have Eli Rubin and Werner Gilliam in the panel to talk about this. I'll turn it over to Eli.
Thanks, Lori. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Hello.
So we are, we're here seeking to establish an ad hoc climate action planning task force. If you remember, the town was awarded the $100,000 grant from the state GoPIF office on our joint application with Biddeford, Kittery, Kennebunk, and SMPDC to develop a year-long climate action plan. And to do this, we'd like to establish a task force. This would be an ad hoc, approximately 16-month task force, and it would be comprised of 5 to 7 community members and staff. And so we're proposing that it be constructed with 1 to 2 select board members, 1 to 2 staff, and the rest of the task force. Due to the kind of scope and nature of the project, we've developed some target sectors that we felt would be good experience and knowledge to bring to the process. And we listed that here on the bottom of the memo. That includes the marine sector, the building sector, the energy sector, the fishing, farming, or food sectors, business community, community service organizations, education, science community, and select board and town staff. So obviously that's more people than we're looking to comprise the task force out of, but that's generally what is kind of the type of knowledge and background that we think would make for a good task force. So after taking any comment tonight from the board, we would like to release applications for volunteers, for members to join the task force tomorrow. And then we would be returning to the board, I think on the second meeting in June, to, for board appointments to the task force. And the work would begin in July.
Eli,
So-
have you heard from anyone who, for a better way to put it, who are not so gung-ho on climate change? Because I think when you put together a task force and everybody's on the same wavelength, you're not getting ideas from, others, so to speak. I know you probably think everybody's on board with this, but I think there are still a lot of people out there who, believe in climate change, but not to the degree that you would have us believe.
Well,
Sure.
I think that's why we're looking for a wide group of people, to make sure that we're hitting all those different sectors. We didn't say that people in those sectors believe all the same thing, but that they have experience in those different areas. So they can bring that experience and knowledge to the table to develop something that makes sense.
Well, I just wanted to put that out there because I think sometimes we have people who, like me, who are not as gung-ho, so to speak, but they're not the ones who speak up. It's always the ones who are, more in line. So
are you volunteering for the task force?
I'm not.
And Sheila, I would also just.
You're good. Yeah.
Just
We need
comment
Sheila
too
on the
that
task force.
Go ahead.
Well, I
just-
think, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, sorry, I'll just say quickly that the task force, the role of the task force is really just to help construct a large process that's very community participatory. And so that there'll be, similar to the comprehensive plan, there'll be lots of opportunity for everyone to be involved. But that the task force is really the people who are organizing, on Tuesday, we're going to have a meeting at the school in the evening to discuss this topic. And next Saturday, we're going to, do this and try to talk about these things. So just, for what that's worth. But
Okay.
I think discussion is a good thing. And I think that the task force is something that I'm interested in hearing what other people have to say, right, wrong, or indifferent. Because there's always usually something that comes out that's good with these ad hoc committees, some good ideas and whatnot. So I'm in favor of it.
I agree with Alan.
Yeah, I think so too. And, having worked on the Gulf of Maine for 30 years, I can't tell you why it's changing, but it is changing. And if people don't believe that, they better wake up.
I don't think it's that we don't believe it. I think that there are a number of people out there who don't believe that it's happening to the point where, geez, if we don't do something tomorrow, we will no longer have lobster.
I agree with that, Sheila, because there has at this meeting, I called somebody out at a climate change talking about things that were going on in the Gulf of Maine. And they were right that things are changing, but what they said was factually incorrect. And we do get a lot of, most people want to do the right thing, whatever that may be. And we hear all of these things, and none of us are climatologists or scientists on this board or experts on any of this. And, we take what we get usually from secondhand sources. So I agree with you in the sense that I hope we have a diverse group with, many experiences, not necessarily different opinions, but experiences that they can use to back up what they have to say. That's all. And we have to wait until after the election anyways. We have 2 open seats, so we will have a different board after the first meeting.
Well, not totally.
At least one.
All right. So are we taking a vote on the task force?
So
I
we're,
make a motion we
yeah,
approve it.
we're seeking to understand whether you would establish this ad hoc task force and this basic makeup so we could start seeking volunteers.
Okay.
So
Mike?
I motion, so moved. Second.
All right, I'll take the roll. Pat,
aye,
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye,
Ed,
aye.
and I say aye. So we have a task force.
Great.
Good luck, Eli, with that.
Thank you. Yes, and we'll be sharing that online, over Facebook, over email, and really try to make sure everyone is aware and can participate. So, thanks.
Very good. Okay, we're moving on to item 9, comprehensive plan update. So stay where you are.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is just a quick item here to kind of update everyone on where we are in the process. We're almost done. After nearly 2.5 years, we're just into our final couple of weeks here before we bring it to the State Review Office. And so we just wanted to have an opportunity tonight to take any comment on the 2 items that were included in your agenda packet. That was volume 1, which is a nice 25-page summary of the much longer, over 400-page, complete plan. And also so you could take a look at the complete goals, policies, and strategies chapter. You had previously looked at the one that was called out Board of Selectmen for responsible party. And this is just so you know, this is what it looks like for everybody. And we've similarly gone to the other committees, the other department heads and organizations in town to seek their feedback and make sure that everyone feels good and is on board and endorses the plan. So the remaining timeline is, we can take comment on the remaining items tonight. And then we will see you at the next meeting on June 9th with the complete final plan for the select board approval and signature. And then we're going to submit it the very next day. And that is because we're the timeline in order to get it on the November ballot is we need to get it to the State Review Office with enough time for them to do their review. So we anticipate receiving it back from them in August and then go through the regular motions to put it on the warrant and get it to the November ballot.
I'd like to thank the committee and the staff that was involved in this. Is great job. One of the things that struck me about this, I'll be very brief, is that when I first looked at Kennebunkport by the numbers, and when you go through that section of Kennebunkport by the numbers, and then you try to correspond to, it's an amazing source. Whoever put this together about Kennebunkport by the numbers, because it ties in so well with the detail of the comprehensive plan in section 1. I mean, you can go to any of those numbers. You can ask a question yourself about those numbers, and you can find some reference to not the specific number, but the issue that it raises in the comprehensive plan. I think it's neatly done. Neatly done.
I was amazed at how there were so many topics hit upon. It's like nothing has been left out. I think it was an amazing job.
A lot on the climate, though. A lot on the climate, Sheila.
Oh, I know.
But no, it's really good. You're exactly right. It was really good. It's a good read, by the way. It's a little tedious when you get to the goals and objectives, but it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Don't think we have to take the.
No, there is a hand up in the audience. Robin has her hand up.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. How are you? I was just wondering, I am not seeing, and I think Mr. Rubin a couple meetings ago said he didn't want to get into the impact of LD 2003 on our town and our planning, but when you read that bill, you know, it speaks to a lot of development without building caps in the designated growth area, which according to the comprehensive plan map that's in the website is 36% of our town, and the lack of, you know, you don't have a parking requirement that would, you know, allow everybody to have a parking place, and the designated growth area is all of Cape Porpoise, Dock Square, Ocean Avenue, all the way from Old Cape Road south. And it seems to me that's an awful lot of development. You know, I think I read somewhere in the plan they thought we could have 500 units by 2025. And I don't think most people in this town have that vision. So I would like to see, before this comprehensive plan goes forward, you know, some addressing of that, because July 2023 is coming up, and I don't see the voters approving a plan that doesn't even speak to that issue, because that will dramatically change the town, maybe not for the best as far as parking and overcrowding, and already people are grumbling about, you know, there's just people everywhere. So I would ask, I know it's been a tremendous effort, and I appreciate the lengths they've gone through, but I don't think that should be excluded and then just have the town vote on that, when we know in July 2023, if we allow that designated growth area to stay the same, you know, that's an oversight that I think would be, you know, a little bit much for many of us. So I would just like to see people read that LD 2003 and really think about what the implications are before we bring this plan to the voters. That's it. Thank you.
So Eli or Werner, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, you know, I think there's a lot about LD 2003 that we just don't know yet exactly what the impacts of that are going to be. It's still very early on in the stages at the at the state level. There's rulemaking that this law has to still go through, but it's a valid point. You know, there's, you know, you never wind up with a comp plan, you know, that's going to be 100% up to date based on what's happening at the legislature. And I do think it's something that we're going to, you know, be paying very close attention to in terms of what those impacts may be. But I think it's really tough to get into specific comments and, you know, some rewrites on, you know, reacting to something that is just fresh from the state at this point. But we will be keeping an eye on that. And if there are amendments that need to be made, you know, for the, you know, as best we can relative to state law, then we'll certainly be discussing those.
Could I say one more thing? And that is, many small towns do not have a designated growth area. So I can understand why larger towns do, but not all small towns have that. So I would just say 36% of the town, that's a lot of growth for a small community that wants to remain, you know, somewhat in its character, you know.
Well, and for those communities that don't have designated growth areas, they potentially are in a more vulnerable position because they don't necessarily have, you know, that mechanism with which to direct those areas. You know, those towns that don't have that, then the designation just, you know, winds up being based on the presence of infrastructure, which can be tricky. So we do have a mechanism because we have the growth area, you know, designations that growth planning has control over, you know. And so again, I said, you know, this is something that we're gonna, you know, be keeping an eye on, and there's amendments to the growth areas that need to be made, then we'll certainly be engaging with growth planning to see if anything needs to be adjusted.
Could I just make one more comment? You may be right, they're more vulnerable, but according to the law, which I have right here, the fourplexes and the parking, less than one parking space per, unit is only in designated growth areas. So a town without a growth area actually would have to follow the part of the law where they can have accessory units, 1 to 2, but the fourplex is specifically mandated for a designated growth area. So I would think we would be more vulnerable because we have such a large designated growth area. Maybe I'm confused, but that's what the law says.
Yeah, Robin, I'm not sure that you're looking at the law that was ultimately passed, because the rate of growth ordinance, it ended in what finally was passed. Municipalities can retain that, so that wasn't eliminated, and the parking requirements similarly can be retained. There's some nuance there with ADUs and with uppercase A affordable housing, but for the fourplexes, I believe that municipalities retain their parking standards.
So this handout, the printout you gave me personally at the town hall, there's something more current than that, because that was only about, right after it passed, and that's what it says.
That, we can chat about it offline if you want, but yeah, then that's the correct one. But I could review it with you if you'd like, but that those standards can still remain.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I'd just like to, thank the Comprehensive Plan Committee, Growth Planning Committee again for the work that they did here. You all have recognized that, Eli as well, having done a lot of work in the, in the tweaking and formatting and, getting all of, getting all of our strategies lined up correctly. A lot of work has gone into this, and I think it really shows in terms of the final product that'll come forward.
It does.
All right. We don't have to take any action on that. So we will move on to item 10, update on fire department task force. Thank you, Eli and Werner.
Yes, thank you.
Great work.
All right, Jay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, this is just kind of a quarterly update on where we were back in the beginning of April. We got the task force together for the first time. We've been meeting every other Wednesday since then, except for 1 week when a few of us were down with the dreaded vid, and some other people were out of town as well. So basically what we did in the first meeting, we went through and established some rules of how we were going to conduct these meetings so that everybody would be able to say their piece, and it helped to keep us on track. So we meet for an hour and then we vote to stay another half hour, up to 2 hours in total. So that, because I think after about the 2 hour mark, I think the production starts really waning. And so that's what we decided. And also, as we have kind of homeworky stuff to do, is we're going to share that in the email to the group, so that we're not using that meeting time to just get caught up. It'll all go out in the emails, and we'll discuss it then, but we won't have to start at zero.
Super.
So one of the things that we did is we in the subsequent meetings was we came up with a list of the different areas that the towns can help each other in the fire department. And in no particular order, those are merging standard operating procedures. We have a software that both towns use called I Am Responding, which helps track where equipment is, vehicles and things like that. And also you can put things on it like hydrant locations, and if there's a hazard at a certain building, we put that where it is, where the fire alarm panel is, information like that. Sharing trucks, vehicles, which was more a type of a specialty vehicle like a ladder truck or maybe a squad type that we don't use at every call, but we really should have. A one fire chief concept, emergency medical services, which obviously Kennebunk does both, and we have chems here. So but that was just thrown out on the list. I don't know where it might go. Some officer training stuff where to try to get our people moving in another direction to become supervisors, give them that opportunity, along with giving more training to our current supervisor. Joining both departments, it's kind of self-explanatory. The upside is there's more responders for each town, but the downside is there's not as many for when both towns come together for an emergency. Sharing a grant writer, Kennebunk already uses one, and this would guarantee that the number of grants you pay for a year are used. And also the federal money grants, they tend to go towards places that are regionalizing. So that can help us. A mechanic, possibly sharing a mechanic between the two towns for the fire department. I don't have enough vehicles to keep that person busy, but both towns might, and it's a way to get another employee into, say, public works, that then when they don't have a fire truck to work on, they can help with the other things. Possibly sharing locations, training facilities or stations. The stations are a little more difficult because they're already pretty much set as far as the way our growth in our towns are. I don't think you'll see either town in my lifetime probably adding a station or anything. But possibly a training facility would be a great thing we could go with. Looking at the purchasing we do, looking at the staffing, whether it's a volunteer call set up like Kennebunkport is for the fire department, or per diem, or even the full-time staff that Kennebunk has, but also, could we share some administration stuff? Looking into those kinds of things. And then rounding it out would be sharing dispatch. And one of the things is, it's not really how we can help each other, but it's something that kind of needs to be done. Is it's kind of changing the perception of what maybe the general public looks at. If they drove by a fire call, a building fire, they're going to see an awful lot of trucks there, and they're going to think, well, wow, this town doesn't need any more trucks. And a lot of times we don't. We actually use very few. It's just that those trucks, when they come from other places, whether it's mutual aid or our own, I don't have them staffed. Our trucks, I can't get them staffed usually with, 2 or 3, 5 people like 20 years ago. So we need more vehicles end up there to get the staffing that we need to the scene. So that's kind of a little bit of a perceptions thing. So we took these 14 items, and I asked them to put them into an order that they feel is important, from voting for this is what I think is the number 1, and down on through to number 14. And we asked them to use a high probability, low impact, high probability, high impact, and then obviously low probability, low impact, low probability, high impact. Looking at that, thinking of that while they were choosing where their votes, so to speak, were going to go. And what I did was I started out where we had the 14, each vote got half a point. So whatever was 14th got a half a point, whatever was number 1 got 7 points, and everything in the middle. So we took that and moved it into a list, and figured we would look at the top 3 or 4 things, and it would give us a good idea of where to start, and that's what we've done. So looking at the top 4, it's the 49 points for sharing a vehicle, 43.5 for the training, the officer training part, 39.5 for possibly sharing a mechanic, and 38 points for joining both departments. The fifth thing was at 32.5 points, just to give you, it was the top four were pretty tight. And then the rest kind of went in. And then the one chief concept barely broke double digits at 10.5 points. So at our last meeting, we had all this information to start our last meeting, which was a week ago Wednesday. And we started to drill down on those top four things. We thought we'd get farther than we did, but we really only stuck on the first one, the possibility of sharing the vehicle. And we drilled down into spitball kind of all the areas that we're going to have things figured out, where we're going to have to investigate and to come up with the plan that we would bring forward for this item or whichever item it might be on our list. And, you know, looking at things like we'd have to explore the cost versus use, what the initial cost is compared to the ownership costs and staffing costs for something. Comparing the cost alone to a dual ownership. What are the demands now versus what we think they might be in the future? An exit clause for both towns, because some things might change down the road and one town say this isn't for us anymore, and have a way to be able to get out of it, things like that. So we're going to continue doing that, but that's pretty much as far as we've gotten in this first quarter of having this going. But it's moving forward, not crazy fast, but we're headed in the right direction. And I can't guarantee that next quarter we're going to be able to bring you any type of, here's the plan and present it to you and let you digest it and ask any questions and maybe send us back to the drawing board for something that wasn't on there or that you would like to see or something like that. But you know, in another quarter, I'll update you where we've gone from now forward, and I will certainly entertain any questions that anybody has.
Any questions from the board?
Excellent. They've identified the problem. They've got it broken down into priorities. They're on the right track.
My comment is going to be, did you discuss the cost and the cost sharing? We're a town of 3,500. Kennebunk is a town of over 11,000.
Right.
So they're times our size.
Right.
So my thought is, do we pay 1/3 and they pay 2/3, or how are we going to work this? I know, you know, and I'm going to bring it up again, Lori. When we got together with Kennebunk and the school system, instead of us paying for our 16% of the children, we wound up paying 43% of the cost because they put it on land value. And of course, when it went to vote, they had to have a lot more votes than we had. So I don't want that happening to us again.
Totally understood. We did talk about different ways that something like this could be funded. So, you know, it's not split down the middle necessarily dollar for dollar, but it could be the type thing that when you look at our two towns and where we are in the fire department, we're in different places, but it doesn't mean certainly we can't help each other. We're going to need some per diems probably down the road. I can't really say when, but as our calls increase, that might be what we're looking at. The unfortunate part, when you start down the per diem road, we're gonna lose some of our call members because it's just a natural thing. Well, I'm not gonna go on this call because there's people there in the station that are getting paid to do it. But if we looked at, and again, I'll use the truck, that if the town of Kennebunkport bought the vehicle and owned it outright, one town has to own it outright. It's easier for all the paperwork involved. But it doesn't mean that then we get a check from, say, Kennebunk for half that price. What if Kennebunk supplied per diem staff in our station where this ladder truck may be, and in a sense paid for it that way? They're gaining the ladder that we're sharing. We're gaining the per diem staff that we need, and we can get into it slowly. And
I have all, you know, I trust you, and the task force seems to be doing a good job. I'm just saying, be careful.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're at, because I've been involved. I lived in this area my whole life too, and I see it. I get what had happened. I understand that, and that's certainly something I will make sure that we discuss. Make sure that's in that type of thing. You know, that type of thing is in the plan.
I just don't want them to consider our endowments part of theirs.
Right.
That's not what it was given to us for. And I just want to be very careful going forward.
Yep, absolutely. And again, anything we bring forward, both boards are going to have the thumbs up, thumbs down, or send us back to the drawing board. You know, obviously nothing can happen without the approval, and you know, you will get. I'm very certain you will get all that.
Okay, thank you.
Then you can make your decision based on that.
All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Have you talked about, so say if we go and do all this and everything, and for some reason we decided that it wasn't working for us, do you have some kind of a idea about an exit strategy?
Yes. Yeah. And so what we found while we were spitballing the areas we were going to have to drill down in with each of these 14 items, we've realized that a lot of them are going to be things that are in each one. And an exit strategy would be in each one, because if we use the ladder truck as an example, just because of the price tag of it, it would be very difficult 2 years later for one of the towns to say, whoa, we're out, because that leaves that may leave one of the towns without any real coverage of that vehicle, and be scrambling for over $1 million in funding to fix that problem. So we would put an exit strategy in everything that we bring forward. I'm quite certain every single thing would have one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
No, I think you covered it pretty well, Sheila, what was on my mind.
Good.
I mean, I think that I have faith in them, but it definitely needs to be said.
Yeah.
Question for Lori is this: if we make this decision, does it go to the voters or does the selectmen decide?
So if it's an interlocal agreement, so if by contract we were going to share personnel and people and equipment, it probably would need to be an interlocal agreement that would go to the voters.
Okay.
It depends on the depth of the sharing and the longevity of it, I would say.
Why I was asking was because, to Sheila's question, if it comes down to the selectmen deciding, then I think the cost sharing would be, coming to a decision would be easier, or maybe not. I'm not so sure. But that's what I wanted to know. Was it a selectman decision or a voter decision?
Yeah,
I'm okay either way. I just want to know.
State law requires, if it's a legal contract between municipalities, so think of the Kennebunk River agreement that we have.
Yeah.
That's an interlocal agreement where we share the harbor master and the river committee. That level needed an interlocal agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'd just like to thank Jay for his efforts in this.
Nice job, yeah.
And his leadership here.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Even though even though he lives in Kennebunk.
We won't hold that against him.
All right. Moving on, we are at 11, street opening permit for North Street.
So moved. I
Second.
think it was pretty slam dunk on that one.
Okay, any comment? Okay, I will take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Motion is accepted. Street opening permit for 105 Old Cape Road.
So moved.
Second.
You do have a hand up in the audience.
Okay.
Mute. Now, can you hear me?
Dave, yes.
Yeah, Dave James, living on North Street. I just wonder where the street opening is. I haven't heard anything about it.
Hi, Dave. So this is a new private way off of North Street. It's Dolly Lane. It's kind of directly across from the intersection of Beechwood Avenue.
Okay. That does it. That's all I needed.
Okay.
And Chris, I'd like to know where the one is for Old Cape Road, because usually I look at a map and we didn't get a map.
Is that across from Cookie Davis's house?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's in between.
Formerly known as.
It's in between the two entrances to Foxbury Woods.
Okay.
On the same side of the road.
I think I have a motion, but I didn't get a second.
Second.
All right, I will take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Motion is accepted. Item 13, accept donations dedicated to the nurses' general account. And I will read them. There's $50 from Jean Perkins in memory of Carol Chamberlain. Another $50 from Glenn and Sharon Bates in memory of Carol Chamberlain. $100 from Jeffrey Harris in memory of Carol Chamberlain. $100 from William and Marion Duclos in memory of Carol Chamberlain. And then $500 from Francis Lamontagne. Staff recommends acceptance of these.
So moved with much appreciation.
Second.
And Patrick,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Again, with much appreciation. Thank you. Accept a $1,000 donation from Goose Rock Beach Fire Company to the general needs account. Staff recommends acceptance.
So move.
Second.
Get it
All
out.
right. Take a roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Again, with much appreciation. And we are down to item 11, other business. Pat, do you have anything?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Mike,
No, nothing.
Alan,
I'm all set. Thank you.
and Ed.
Softball starts next Wednesday night, right, Alan?
That's correct. 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. I've had a lot of interest or a lot of people coming back, and I told them that if they played last year, they didn't have to fill out the forms online, and I hope I'm correct. I think that's what I heard last meeting.
Yep, and that's down at the Consolidated Park, Parsons
Yep.
Field.
Fun time, not
Yep.
highly competitive, just have a good time.
Good.
Lots of different skill sets.
It'll be nice and warm.
Yes.
And I have no other business. Lori?
So I have a couple of items. One, I'm gonna ask Chief Sanford and Chris Simeone to come up for. Over the past, I would say, 6 months or so, I think that we've seen an increased concern about speeding in town, and speeding is always one of those things that I think our police department does a great job at trying to manage, but you can't be everywhere all the time. And some of it is also about people's perception about speeding. And so the chief and Chris and I have talked about what we might be able to do. And we have one of those kind of mobile speed signs, the smaller ones rather than the big flashy one we have. And you've seen Kennebunk put some additional ones up in town. And we have been discussing whether or not those might be effective in certain areas in town. We probably have about a half a dozen places that we get a high number of complaints about speeding. And, you know, staff has been discussing if we purchase some of those that maybe we might be able to put those in those locations to alert drivers as well as move them around so that they might be more effective. Chief Sanford has checked with a company where there's about a 6-week delivery time period. And the machines are solar powered and they're about $2,600 a piece. So we were wondering whether the board was interested in purchasing some using contingency funds to try them out. But I'll turn it over to Chief Sanford and Chris to talk about, you know, whether they think they'd be useful in town.
Good evening again, folks. You know, these are tools in our toolbox that we could use. They come in 3 versions, solar from this particular company, solar, battery powered, and a combination of both. And I think these would be very useful with the help of Chris and his crew. We could get these signs in different locations and they fit on a post, and they will help us in managing speeds because speeding happens on every road in every America in America, and there's no way around it. And there are different ways to use these signs. I think these signs would be very helpful. You know, I don't think that 6 of these would be out of reason. You know, with right around $2,800, I think, with the particular brackets, and we could use those and also use them in conjunction with enforcement. Because if you go by one of those signs and you're still speeding, then maybe you deserve a ticket. You know, no matter what the reason is. You know, unless your house is on fire. But still, that's my opinion, and I think they'd be very useful.
It gathers a lot of information too, don't they? Like how fast each car is going. Do they do that?
Some of those do, and we already have that technology. And I'll go over the procedure that we use. When most of the time when somebody calls in a speeding complaint to the police department, we'll go down and we'll speak with that complainant, and then we'll speak with neighbors. We'll gather as much information as we can, and then we use technology we have right now that actually monitors the speed. We usually leave it out for about a week, and this technology actually tells us if there is actually a real speeding issue in the area, and it also gives us peak times and where enforcement would be helpful. And these signs, some of those actually have some of that, but not all of that technology. Yes.
Okay. Good.
It's a force multiplier, and it really enhances your work. You know, it's the kind of thing that we would be well suited by having out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I go by one of those, I'm always looking at my speedometer, seeing am I going over the speed limit until it starts to flash.
And to do that.
So I'm in favor of them myself. I think that, and I've had a lot of complaints from different ones in the last 3 or 4 months about speeding on the Mills Road. I see quite a few early in the morning speeding on the Pier Road. Yeah, I would be in favor of something like that.
Yeah, and Chief, also, I know we talked about the some of these being about $2,600, but if you could look into make sure that if you're going to spend the money, your needs are satisfied.
Okay. I appreciate that because, obviously we're worried about, the money that, that we spend, but, if we find a different brand that does a little bit more for us, it might be something that would be very much useful. I appreciate
Worth the extra couple of $100 or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to say the one in Kennebunk, the silly little things that it prints out, it definitely gets your attention. It doesn't say you're going too fast or, it's got these little emojis and it does several different things. And I might admit that I went by it one day a little faster to see what it would actually do. And I think it did say you were too fast, but in the most cases,
just to see what it would say.
Just to see what it would say.
Yeah, right.
Just a mile or two, Pat. Just a mile or two.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of electronic signs, but in this case, I think this is something that we would benefit from because, like Alan says, I do hear a lot of, people are speeding on this road, people are speeding on that road. And in most cases, I would agree with what I've heard the chief say before. Usually people aren't. It's a perception versus reality, but this will certainly
help.
To wake you up. Yeah.
So should we wait to, let the chief look into this and come back with prices? Or how do you want to do this, Lori?
I make a motion, we let him proceed.
Second.
I would say, I would agree with that, but I think we need to set a cap on the amount of, because I think we want to get them out as soon as possible. Agreed?
Yeah. I think a motion to add to that.
Would 20,000 be a reasonable number, Chief?
I think it would. And then, if I find, a better model, I just, I use that money wisely and get as many as I can for whatever the price is, if it happens to be a little bit more.
And we can always move them around as well. It's not, we don't have to get one for every single road.
I don't think that would be wise because folks would then get used to them and they would be effective.
Yeah.
So the motion is that we let the chief proceed to a max of 20,000.
Yes.
I'll second that.
All right, and I will take roll. Pat?
Aye.
And Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And Sheila says aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12, approve the May 26th treasurer's warrant.
I have one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It is that time every 2 years that Maine Municipal Association is taking nominations for the Legislative Policy Committee. And that's the committee that meets to discuss legislative bills that are before our state, and especially in regards to municipal measures. I have served on the LPC for a number of years, and I would be willing to serve again. But in order to do that, I would need to be nominated by the town.
So moved.
Second.
And I will take a roll. Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. Thank you, Lori, for volunteering. And anything else?
Sure.
That's all I have.
That's all.
I move the warrants then.
Second.
And Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. Move to,
Move to adjourn.
I have the first. I need second.
Second.
All right.
Just
We
pulling your leg.
are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. This was a
Thank you.
productive meeting.
Yes. Good night,
night.
everyone.
Good night.
And don't forget, we need signatures tomorrow.
All
Thank
right.
Got it.
You got it.